Welcome to RLive. I am Gordana Knežević, Director of Balkan Service. Our topic today is Macedonian crisis. I would like to introduce our guests. First of all, here with us is Mr. Daniel Server, Senior Research Professor of Conflict Management and Senior Fellow at Center for Transatlantic Relations at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, deeply involved in Balkans, at least 20 years. Welcome to RLive.
My pleasure.
Yes. Our next guest is Jabir Derala in Skopje, human rights activist and president of NGO named Civil. Derala is a journalist as well, published by a number of international and local publications, including Guardian. Welcome. Joining us from Skopje as well is Maria Tumanovska. She is one of RFERL key reporters on the ground. Hello, Maria.
Hello to everybody.
I would like as well to introduce Deana Kjuka. Deana is a social media editor for Radio Free Europe Central Newsroom. She will tell us later on how Facebook and other social media are being used in Macedonian crisis. Hi. So I would like to welcome all of you and to thank you for being part of our first RFERL Live on Macedonia. You can as well send questions or comments during this discussion by Twitter or Facebook. Our hashtag is RFERL IVE. So the crisis in Macedonia started in late February this year. Initially, it was a wiretap scandal which revealed that authorities were wiretapping around 20,000 Macedonians. Opposition leader Zoran Zaev was making some of these conversations public, and he said that it was a whistleblower who passed on the recordings to him. Let us open this discussion from Skopje. Maria, what was the response of authorities? How the crisis escalated?
I will try to give a short summary of the beginning of the political crisis, actually. Of course, it didn't happen through the night. Maybe the crisis started 1 year ago after the early parliamentary elections, when the opposition declared that it will not recognize the election results because, according to the opposition, the elections were not free, fair, and democratic. And after that, all the MPs from the parliament, from the opposition coalition, left the parliament. So for more than a year, the parliament works and functions without the members of the opposition. But as you already said, Gordana, the crisis became deeper more than 3 months ago when the SDSM, the main opposition party, revealed a huge scandal with wiretapping. According to the opposition, more than 20,000 people were wiretapped, and many of the revealed conversations, the phone conversation that were broadcasted on 33 press conferences of the opposition are showing the criminal, the corruptive cases in which members of the government are involved. As well as direct interference of the executive government to the judiciary, to the court system, to the editorial policy of the media, and so on. At the same time, how did the authorities reacted? Actually, at the same time, there is an ongoing process against the opposition leader Zoran Zaev and 5 others who are accused by the government that they were trying to destroy the state institutions and to create a kaplat. Of course, all of them except Zoran Zaev are in custody. The escalation of the crisis actually happened in Kumanovo on the May 9th of May. You probably already know that in these incidents, 8 Macedonian policemen were killed and 10 members of the armed group that attacked Kumanovo, and according to this, there were terrorists who were trying to make great damage to the country and to attack the state institutions. At the end, I need to mention the protests that were happening a few days ago. The biggest two, one happened on Sunday, organized by the opposition coalition. Demonstrators asked the government to leave, the Prime Minister Gruevski to resign. And the next day, there was a big, let's say, pro-Gruevski rally in front of the parliament with the supporters of the government. They were trying to give a support to the government to stay, and actually they were supporting the Gruevski policy. So on this rally, Prime Minister Gruevski said that he will not leave the office or otherwise surrender to the opposition. That's the final answer until now. And now we also have people who are campaigning in front of the government, and the others who are in front of the parliament as a support for government policies, as I said. So this is short, but I hope that you got the picture.
Thank you, Maria, for these opening remarks. This is really a slice of life from Skopje. I would like now to turn to Diana and to ask her how the conflict is being played on social media and primarily on Facebook. What are your observations?
Well, I would say that in recent days, Twitter has played especially an important role in creating awareness about what is happening in the anti-government camp and at the pro-government camp. So basically, anti-government protesters are camped out in front of the government building, while pro-government supporters are camped out in front of the parliament. So, and the pro-government camp has been dubbed the counter camp on social media. Facebook as well as Twitter. So people are playing around with the word counter. It's a reference to the pro-government supporters, as I said, who set up camp in front of the parliament. And they tweet also using some of the hashtags like Zbogom Nikola, goodbye Nikola, a reference to the prime minister. Also, I protest, protestiram. So, and some users what users have been saying on Twitter recently is one user said, maybe when Macedonia faces bankruptcy, Gruevski will organize counter-bankruptcy. So it's playing around this, what's happening right now with these counter camps and these anti-government camps. Another person said, Vamara is tweeting on counter-Twitter. So we can see some of these messages emerging. On the other hand, there's also examples of people mocking and joking around with the opposition, calling them traitors, saying they work for foreign intelligence services. So, but I think it's evident that most of the Twitter users are leaning more towards the opposition rather than the ruling party. I would say that the younger generations who are using social media to share independent sources with the public, they're generally well educated and they have a liberal point of view. A lot of independent activists are also behind this Twitter community, which serves as a important support for the civil society. I think it's much easier for the government to control the older generations who rely on traditional media like television, but in conditions where they control the majority of traditional media, as I said, social networks like Twitter and Facebook have played a big role, I think, in informing people, especially young people, about what is really happening in the country.
So are we right to say that for the time being, opposition is stronger on new media compared to government
perhaps
supporters?
more or less, because as I said, there's also some pro-government supporters who are on social media, but recently, because these are much the younger generation, I would say yes, the opposition has.
Mr. Derala, this is a question for you. Maria already mentioned Kumanovo incident. It remains a mystery. We have 8 police officers killed and 10 attackers killed, at least 30 people detained, but no information on investigation, no new facts, no clarification from Macedonian authorities. How do you see Kumanovo incident?
Well, I tend to agree with quite a few police experts and tactics experts that we contacted in the last several days, as well as to the visit to the Kumanovo neighborhood wild settlement or Divlje Naselje, where the tragic incident or the 2 days war, as they call it locally, took place, and more or less every one of them agrees that this was a Bollywood, not Hollywood, Bollywood production of the government, that it was a conflict that was staged by the government in order to divert the public attention, domestic and international public attention to the huge mega scandal that revealed the criminal conduct of the government in the last several years. So it wasn't a surprise to see the government being silent for a number of hours while the Kumanovo city and the whole country, I would say, was shaking from this serious armed encounter that took place there several days ago. And it was a very symptomatic but not a surprising appearance of the spokesperson of the MOI, who only held some 60 or 70 seconds press conference. And then a very long time after that, late in the night, on the first day of the conflict, the Minister of Interior came out with a very vague statement, rather purely political approach, in which she indicated that our country is under attack by terrorists from Kosovo, and not really revealing any facts that are coming from the ground. I'm not talking about revealing police tactics and so, but there are things that the public deserves and demands to know, and this hasn't been the case so far. The Minister of Interior resigned, but it was also a staged resignation, just as same as the cousin of the Prime Minister, who is the head of the we call it secret police. It's he's the head of the Security and Counterintelligence Directorate of the state, but in the end, we all know that they are still in power and that they are pulling the strings even as we speak. So the Kumanovo affair, let's call it that way, is one more attempt of the government to take advantage from its power, from its money, and from the police, which is practically privatized, according to what we have known ever since, but has been revealed in a clear evidence from the wiretap conversations. And we see that this is one more scandal that the government is trying to through which the government is trying to take the initiative in the whole thing. You know, to raise the stakes and then and go on, take the leadership in this ongoing political crisis. Otherwise, this government has always been relying on the ability to stir the interethnic and interreligious relationship in order to gain more power from those kind of tensions. And that's done, of course, in some coordination with the coalition partner on the Albanian side.
Yeah, thank you for these opening remarks. We now go to Washington. This is a question for Mr. Daniel Server. Do you think that Macedonia is now a playground for Russia?
Well, I hope not. I don't really see anybody in Macedonia who really wants to go in that direction, though. I mean, you know, I can't tell so much from here. I can tell you that Macedonia has not been in the headlines here, that the other day, for the first time, the National Public Radio, which is the best coverage of international news in Washington, did do a short piece on Macedonia, both on the wiretapping scandal and on the affair. But I want to challenge this description of the affair, because I don't find anything Bollywood about it. I don't know where you'd find 10 Albanians dumb enough to dress up in what we call BDUs, battle dress uniforms, carrying automatic weapons to challenge the Macedonian police. Now, it may be that this was a group that was known previously and that the government decided to act against it for political reasons at this moment. That I suppose is a possible explanation of what happened, but the notion that the whole thing was trumped up is nonsense. There were people carrying automatic weapons and apparently intending to subvert the Macedonian state, and I take that quite seriously. I took it seriously in 2001, and I take it very seriously now. This is a big setback for stability in Macedonia, and I think there are real threats out there. So on the wiretapping scandal, we've had wiretapping scandals here too. All of this is all too familiar. What's bothersome about the scandal, it seems to me, is the lack of clarification of what the source of these wiretaps is. Were they wiretaps done by the government that are now being leaked? Were they wiretaps done by somebody else that are being leaked? That seems to me to be still quite unclear. I've heard allegations both directions. And what, the truth of the matter is that Macedonia is a young democracy and it's facing some very serious challenges. But I don't get upset about demonstrators in front of the parliament or demonstrators in front of any other building. That seems to be the natural course of events in a democracy. What isn't natural is the carrying of automatic weapons and the willingness to use them against the forces of the state.
Thank you for your contribution. I would like to go now back to Mr. Derala in Skopje. Russian Foreign Minister, actually Lavrov, said a few times that the West is punishing Gruevski because he didn't impose sanctions on Russia. What do you make out of this?
Look, the behavior of Russia is quite strange lately because for the first time in a very long time, the Russian diplomacy seems to be active on the ground here, issuing press releases, going out in public and making statements. No matter how silly and absurd those statements may sound to the common sense, still the Russian interests here in the Balkans are pretty obvious. Although I believe that the Russian diplomacy is now stirring the situation here in the Balkans, not because of some gas or whatever pipes that would go through the Balkans, but I would say that they're trying to bargain with the Ukrainian situation there. Back to the Bollywood attribute that I made to the Kumanovo crisis. It's rather Bollywood production of what the Macedonian government has done out of it. Of course, I take it very seriously when people take Kalashnikovs and shoot or get themselves into a neighborhood, bothering and ill-treating people around and trying to confront an official police or whatever power in the country. But if we look at the whole thing, the way that the government is acting towards it, the fact that the president himself has admitted the fact that they were following the movements of this armed group for some time, and 5 months before the conflict, the president or the services in Macedonia, state services in Macedonia, have issued a letter, an information to 17 services in 17 countries, NATO members and so. is adding to what I say, or what I would call a Bollywood production, meaning that it's also translucent when we speak about the behavior of the government. And about Russia, I believe that the Russians have much more interests elsewhere in the world, not in the Balkans, or they have proved themselves as very unsuccessful and not very faithful to any promises they made to any of the Balkan nations in the history, also now. I think it's only playing with nerves and trying to bargain with the Ukrainian crisis. However, I don't believe that the Russian sentiment is growing dramatically in the country, although it has grown somewhat to some degree. We saw on the counter protests organized by Gruevski, we saw flags of Macedonia, but also flags of Russia. Whilst on the protests against Gruevski, we could see the flags of Macedonia, the Albanian flag, the Serbian flag, the Turkish Roma flag, and other ethnic the symbols that were tied together. I can tell you on 5th of May and also onwards, we could see a situation which hasn't been seen in the history, that the Albanian and the Serbian flag were tied together. I don't think it was the case ever, especially in the post-communist Yugoslav period. And that's something that we should take as a great success of the Macedonian citizens who overcame the ethnic boundaries, and they got united against one single problem, and it's the government of Gruevski, led by Gruevski and Ali Ahmeti.
Yeah, being united against really corrupt government. That's
Exactly.
what they are at the moment.
Exactly so.
Okay, I would like now to ask Maria to go back to Kumanovo incident. It left 8 police officers dead and 10 attackers as well. The number is changed. It was 14 and now we know it's 10. Over 30 Kosovo Albanians are detained, but no results on investigation. What is talk of the town in Skopje about Kumanovo? Does it remain a mystery?
Yes, luckily at the moment the situation is peaceful there, but I think that the fear and tension remain. People say that at the moment actually the multi-ethnic relations in the country haven't been better. But anyhow, the Kumanovo incidents were very bad election. According, as Chadri said, according to some oppositional media and experts, this was a well prepared scenario by in which the members of the government and people from the police were involved. That actually they created that in order to defocus the public opinion from the scandal with the wiretapping. I'm not sure, I cannot say whether this is like that or not, because officially we don't have information about the motive, which were the real motives and the goal of the people that attacked Kumanovo. First, the police and the government says that that those people were terrorists, that they were paid to do that, and not paid, that they were terrorists who were trying to attack the state institution and to create a great damage to Macedonia. But some say that they were just guys who were paid to come here and to provoke the incidents. So the investigation is still on. We have no clear information except the fact that instead of 14, as the Prime Minister Gruevski at the beginning said, that there were 14 murdered people from members of the armed group. Now the public prosecutor claimed that they are dead. There are 10 dead people that were found on the ground, and we are expecting them to be transported, the bodies to be transported in Pristina on Kosovo because they are Kosovo citizens. And that's all for the from the official information from the ground. I was trying to get something more from the public prosecutor today about the case, about the people who are accused actually are their retentions and more about the investigation. But until now, I haven't received answer from the public prosecution.
Thank you, Maria. I would like now to go back to Washington. Mr. Serva, having in mind the countries surrounding Macedonia, Albania, Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Kosovo, are you concerned that this conflict may escalate?
Sure, I'm concerned that it may escalate, but I think the real threat is an internal one inside Macedonia. And let me go back to the Russians, because I think the Russians do have an objective other than Ukraine. I think the Russians would like, if they could, to prevent Macedonia from joining NATO. And that is a Russian goal throughout the potential members of NATO. And I have to admit that the current incidents, especially the wiretapping, I would say, are going to create serious doubts inside NATO and inside the European Union about Macedonia's candidacy for those two organizations. And that's most unfortunate in my way of thinking. On the question, again, of the origin of these guys who are carrying automatic weapons, I just don't know 10 Albanians from Kosovo dumb enough to do this for money from the Macedonian secret services. I mean, that would be just incredibly stupid. And I just don't know any Kosovars who are that stupid. It seems to me that if the purpose was to distract attention from the wiretapping scandal, it's a colossal failure, because while the wiretapping scandal itself did not cause Jankulovska's resignation, the incident in Kumanovo did cause her resignation. So anybody who thought that this was going to distract attention has performed an enormous stupidity. On the question of why there's no more information from the investigation, this is a big problem in the United States as well. Prosecutors, when they're conducting their inquiries, will generally want to say absolutely nothing about the inquiries because they're afraid of endangering the case that they need to present in court. And it can be very damaging to a case in court if there are comments from the prosecutor before actually presenting it in court. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the reason for the lack of information in Macedonia, but what I take very seriously from the situation in Macedonia is that people lack confidence in the authorities. That is quite clear. And to tell you the truth, we have some of that problem in the United States as well. We saw it in Ferguson. We've seen it recently, just a few miles from where I sit in Baltimore. And it's a very serious problem. And it's particularly serious in a country that is still undergoing transition. But I got to emphasize that even a very consolidated democracy in the United States still has problems when prosecutors won't give any details of their investigations, and people lack confidence that the investigation is being handled well. So this is a typical problem even of a consolidated democracy, and nobody should think that Macedonia is unique in this respect.
We actually just received a question. It's sent us by tweet, and it says, "Are NATO and European Union to blame for current crisis?" I would like to rephrase this question. You know, I would like to ask you actually whether the fact that Macedonia was neglected by European Union and the fact that it was not admitted to NATO when it was due to be received are somehow an ingredients in this crisis.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, please jump in, Mr. Darrell.
Well, I think that the European Union has long neglected Macedonia because the European Union preferred stability over democracy in the country. It was a situation, a long-standing situation, in which the European Union saw that Macedonia is peaceful, that there are basic rules being followed, meaning the infrastructure, banking, communications, supplies were fine. People were not protesting a lot. So for the rest, they didn't really care a lot. For a very long time, they didn't care about the abduction of the state institutions, the abduction of democracy, the neglect of human rights, and the total capture of the media landscape in the country. In time, it was proven that democracy means stability in the end. So that's how the European Union has got involved in this whole thing, in this whole process.
If I may add,
Maria,
yeah.
yes, please say
about yes, about our Macedonia joining EU and NATO. For over the past year, I think that Macedonia have all been criticized all the time by the Brussels for the bad results in the situation with the media, freedom of the media, judiciary, bad results in fight against corruption, and so on. And I think that, of course, all of it makes frustration, and in that path to EU, we are kind of stuck. There is nothing moving forward, and I think that we are at risk that maybe we will lose the recommendation for opening negotiations in the next progress report from the European Commission if the situation doesn't change.
Mr. Server, would you like to add something in response to this tweet question?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes. The failure of the EU and NATO to move ahead with Macedonia's Atlantic ambitions is a major contributor to the current instability in Macedonia. I think it's almost inconceivable that if Macedonia had been moving rapidly through the accession process with the EU and towards NATO membership, that all of this would have happened the way it happened. That said, we have to ask, well, why did the EU and NATO behave that way? And there, the blame clearly lies in Athens. I mean, it's just unequivocal that Athens has defied an international court of justice opinion allowing Macedonia to join international organizations as the FIROM. Macedonia has been willing to do that with NATO, and it seems to me that Athens has quite intentionally tried to export instability to Macedonia for its own internal political reasons. That said, one thing about the community of democratic countries is that they expect members of that community to handle their own domestic political issues on their own. I mean, self-governance is part of the game here. And where Macedonia seems to me to be failing is in creating a kind of inclusive governance that's required in a democracy. You can't have a democracy if the opposition stays out of parliament for a year. I mean, that just it destroys the very basis of the democratic system not to have an active and energetic opposition. So it seems to me that there are some really fundamental issues remaining in democracy in Macedonia, and but they are mostly for Macedonians to deal with. I might blame Athens for the lack of progress on NATO and EU membership, but we shouldn't kid ourselves. The failure to develop an independent court system, the failure to have more energetic independent media, the failure to have a loyal opposition that is prepared to come into parliament, vote against the government, and try to shape legislation in the direction that it wants. These are serious failures in a democracy.
Thank you. Talking about the elements of this crisis, Mr. Derala actually mentioned how the different ethnic groups came together when it comes to opposition camp. I would like now to ask Diana, when it comes to social network, what is dominant? Ethnic division?
Well, from what I have observed, I would say ethnic unity. Just starting a few weeks back, after the Kumanovo crisis, one of the most shared videos online is this 4-minute monologue by an ethnic Albanian in Kumanovo speaking in Macedonian to a news channel. And the video was shared on Facebook. It received more than 600,000 views, which for a country of 2 million is pretty impressive. And Facebook users dubbed it the speech of the year. In the video, basically, the man calls on everyone to remain calm, to respect those of different ethnic groups, and the video ends with a Macedonian man coming and approaching him and hugging him, and then the ethnic Albanian man says, terrorism and nationalism are constructed things to make us fight each other. I've lived here for 40 years. I've never exchanged 40 bad words with a Macedonian or Albanian. But during the same time, there were other images that were being shared on social media. An image of the Macedonian and Albanian flags together on a ribbon with the words "not forgotten" was very popular, and this was in reference to the policemen that were killed in Kumanovo, saying that this will not divide us. Also, on May 17th, leading up to the anti-government rally, we could see on Twitter, the atmosphere on Twitter and Facebook was almost euphoric. People began posting photos of Albanian and Macedonian flags put together through Photoshop, and then later on, as the protests began, just photographing how Albanian and Macedonian flags basically sewn up together, and commenting how amazing it was to see ethnic unity. And also, there was a message before that by Albanian and Macedonian activists being shared, calling on the government to resign. So I think it's interesting to see whether this newfound desire for unity will actually serve as a turning point and how it will play out later on.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you. We received another question tweeted to us. How can government promote peace in the region when it provokes neighbors with Antiquization project? I assume this is a reference to Skopje becoming like ancient Greek town. Yeah. So maybe Mr. Derala, you can respond to this.
Well, you can hardly say that Macedonia looks like an ancient town. I would rather say it looks like a very stupid, ridiculous, kitschy experiment that only serves the vanity of a few, and of course also serves the lucrative interests of the few in power in the country, and as well it serves as a boost of nationalism, supremacism, and in the end to piss off the Greek neighbors. The Skopje 2014 is a horrible mistake that goes on for a number of years. There's something that the activists, the human rights activists, but also concerned citizens tried to oppose and to protest against, but the government has organized counter groups that were even beating students of architecture some years ago, and were just going on with their machinery, reshaping the history, reshaping the physical appearance of the city, and also reshaping the culture. and identity of the whole nation, but particularly of the ethnic Macedonians in the country. Now we have created more confusion regarding all of these categories that I just mentioned: identity, culture, history, and so on. The Skopje 2014 so far is a project that costed over 500 million euros. Some say even close to 1 billion. And it is a project that is a masculine, militant, and very chauvinistic in all sorts of the terms, in all meanings of the term, meaning not only nationalistic but also religious, and also masculine in terms of gender sensitivity, and it's very violent, apart of being absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you for this. I would like actually to ask you one more question.
Yes.
Events in Macedonia are being compared to events in Ukraine. Even our hangout is named Macedonia's Maidan moment. Where do you see similarities, and what are the differences compared to events in Ukraine?
First of all, I sincerely, but most sincerely, hope, and I put a lot of efforts, hard efforts, to do my best as a person, but also as a human rights activist, as the representative of my organization, to prevent developments in the country that will lead to the Ukrainian scenario or Ukrainian crisis, to the nature of what Ukraine is going through, starting with Maidan. The differences are in the size, for sure, of what, and also the nature of the very movement against government. The similarity is the united citizens who are fed up of the government as it was in Ukraine and as it is in Macedonia. A criminal and violent government that molests the whole population from one to another day. So that's a similarity, but the difference is that the movement in Macedonia does not have a single idea of taking any kind of weapons. If I go back to 5th of May, when we came out on the streets, intrigued or scandalized by the latest revealings about the death of Martin Neškovski in 2011, we were the ones who were defending the police from the provokers, and we clearly know that some of them are the ruling party activists. They are the hooligans who are sent by the ruling party in order to provoke the police to act against citizens. We were the ones who were beaten up by them, and we were the ones who were beaten up by the police as well. At the moment, there is a number of students. Tomorrow, there will be 9 of them going in front of the court. I can tell you that out of the 9 people who are going to the court tomorrow, 3 of them are activists of Civil, my organization. And I could clearly see their actions. They were peacefully protesting. And I have a strong ground to believe that none, or almost none, of the persons who will face the court tomorrow are those who were violent during the protests on 5th and 6th and 7th of May, and so on. I strongly believe that this government only wants to set an example and to scare the people off the streets. But I don't think it's going to work, because this is a process that has already started back in December, when the students rose against the government and the very bad politics and practices of the government. And I don't think it will end just with a number of court cases in which they will only put pressure public pressure and try to manipulate. So that's the difference. Our intention is to peacefully, but entirely peacefully, to the end, protest and demand the unconditional resignation of Gruevski's government. There are no weapons, there are no sticks, there are no stones that we want to take in our hands in order to attack the government. Because we, in the same time, as well, have deep respect for the police, especially those who got killed in the Kumanovo crisis. And also, we also we call upon the police not to follow orders that are against the constitution and the laws, and to respect our right to protest. And I believe that there are great many police officers who are on our side, who support us. Maybe their cousins, maybe their sons and daughters are with us.
Thank you, Darala. Now I would like to move to a hard part. So, Maria, I would like to ask you, do you think that Mr. Gruevski will resign? Are you seeing a quick solution to this crisis?
That's a really hard one. It is, as I already told you, it is very hard to predict what will happen in the next days, because what is happening, we see many interesting situations these days, starting from a protest, counter-protest, campaign, anti-camp. Then we have protests against police violence and counter-protest for support of the police and blah blah. So many situations and that we are not used to see, we are seeing these days. Anyhow, what I think that is good is that the political dialogue finally started after almost a year. Leaders started to speak, of course, with the help of the European Union and mediation from the parliamentarians from European Parliament. I really hope that they will try to find a solution, because if they're not ready to do that, I think that no one from the outside can help us. Whether Gruevski will resign, that's really a difficult one to answer. I can just go back to his speech on the rally, where he said that he's not ready to leave the office or to surrender. So maybe he already answered the question.
Thank you. I know that none of us have a crystal ball, but I still would like to ask Mr. Darala, can you tell us what is the most likely next development in Macedonia in your view?
Well, I believe that Gruevski will resign eventually. The desperate tries now are to postpone as much as possible his resignation, and of course to bargain for his freedom that is pretty much at stake at the moment. I believe that the most ideal would be that Gruevski resigns together with his whole government, and then transitional government takes power and tries to obtain, in a process, to obtain conditions for free and democratic elections in as short time as possible. But I don't believe it's possible to happen before at least 6 months, but I would say up to 18 months of a transitional government trying to clear up the voters' register, to replace the corrupt judiciary, and to appoint strategic personnel, and to at least repair a little bit the institutions, and of course to try to reform at least the national broadcasting service, which is now completely occupied by the ruling parties. What will actually happen depends a lot from the nerves that both leaders have. On one side, the Gruevski's government, I mean himself personally, and on the opposition side, what kind of material he is made of, the opposition leader Zaev. I believe that Gruevski in the end will have to crack and to resign. And then the transitional government is inevitable. It will happen sooner or later. I think that for the sake of the country, it's better that the transitional government starts working, being appointed, and starts working as soon as possible. I would say not later than end of June. It's quite critical that all this process and this unrest is over by mid-June, so the important institutions and persons and groups in the society will have the opportunity to organize the immediate future of this country.
Thank you. So the question for Mr. Server: what is your major concern regarding the future of Macedonia?
Well, my major interest is to see Macedonia mature as a democratic state. On the particular question of Gruevski, it may be true that his last victory was due in part to electoral fraud, but it's also clear that he got a hell of a lot of votes. And if I have a concern about that, it's that if an election is called, that he might win again. And you know, I see Mr. Durala shaking his head no.
No.
But I think you know, there are no guarantees in democracies.
Please read our reports, our elections reports. You will see the size of the electoral fraud that was done in 2011.
I can believe that there was electoral fraud. I can believe that it even, you know, influenced the outcome. But the fact of the matter is that Mr. Gruevski, for whatever reasons, has a certain popularity, and I think it's important not to underestimate one's political opponents. But I also wanted to comment on a couple of other things. I think Mr. Durala's emphasis on the nonviolent discipline of the demonstrators is extraordinarily important. It's really vital that that be maintained at this point. And I think the interethnic character of the opposition demonstrations is also extraordinarily important. It's one of the, you know, good byproducts of this crisis that ethnic Albanians, ethnic Macedonians, and lots of other people are deciding that they don't like what's going on in the country. That, for me, is a very positive indicator. I also wanted to comment on the antiquities question. You know, I wandered into the Library of Congress of the United States yesterday, which is one of the most glorious buildings in Washington, and it's a blatant imitation of antique architecture, lots of columns and mosaics. I mean, statues all over the place. Nobody who lives in Washington can think that it's illegitimate to do what you can to glorify your state. We were doing it in the late 18th century, and we continued to do it not only through the 19th century when the Library of Congress was built, but we've done it even very recently through the 20th century. You know, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I might share Mr. Durala's aesthetic view of what was done in Skopje, but I have to admit also that when I stroll in downtown Skopje these days, it's a hell of a lot nicer. The piazza, the main piazza there, used to be an asphalt. It wasn't actually a parking lot because nobody was allowed to park there, but it was pretty ugly stuff. So I I think one has to be careful to recognize, and in particular, I think the Greeks need to be careful to recognize that when people do this kind of thing, they're not trying to steal your identity. They're trying to have some of its glory rub off on themselves. In fact, Washington, D.C. was founded explicitly as the new Rome. And we unhesitatingly dress up our politicians in togas and make statues of them that are in Statuary Hall on Capitol Hill. I mean, and to the Italians' credit, they've contributed a few sculptures to the city as well to encourage this idealization of the Romans, who weren't the nicest guys on earth. So we need to distinguish here. I'm completely sympathetic with those who criticize the government for spending 500 million or €1 billion on this kind of project. But this is where democracy really counts. This is where it counts to have an opposition in parliament that is maintaining oversight over the government. How did such a thing happen? This money was appropriated. I understand it was tucked away in various budget lines. But this is why you need a strong opposition in a democracy. So the aesthetic judgments I might share, but you know, there's nothing criminal about glorifying your city with a lot of fancy statues.
If I may, only shortly, I wouldn't go into further discussion or debating, especially because I sense that Mr. Seva is sharing my aesthetic views. But right you are when you mentioned the democratic procedures. This whole project was done in front of our eyes without a single notion of transparency, democratic, or whatever public debate. Let me remind you, in 2012, upon the budget debate in the parliament on the 24th of December, the MPs, the opposition MPs, and the journalists were violently ousted out of the parliament building. And the whole crisis even got to its peak back then. Exactly, that's the manner of how this government was spending our taxpayers' money in a completely untransparent and very arrogant manner, in which we had to say thank you for the money that we actually give to the government in order to get services from the government. This was a purely autocratic, some people call it dictatorial, or the German press also called the Prime Minister der kleine Diktator. And I purely share that opinion. Exactly, Skopje 2014, apart of being a ridiculous thing, it's a very brutal, very physical evidence of a criminal and non-democratic and completely non-transparent manner of conducting and practicing power in this country.
And if we would look for a parallel in the US, maybe we could compare it with Roman emperors in Las Vegas, rather than rather than with US.
You know, just because the statues in Washington, D.C. are a little bit older doesn't mean they were any less ridiculous. At the time, we're talking about the 18th century America, where one of the richest men in America, George Washington, couldn't build his house out of stone because it would have been too expensive. Instead, he made it out of wood made to look like stone. So, you know, the notion that it's only Las Vegas, I mean, okay, Las Vegas, but the fact of the matter is that we all have aspirations, and we all want them expressed in some way. I can't like some of those expressions of aspiration, but it's not wrong to have aspirations, and it is wrong for other people to object to your having aspirations. And that's really my bottom line point. There are 1,257 places in the United States that are called by the name Macedonia. And the notion that Greece has a monopoly on that name is ludicrous.
That's also true.
Okay, so can I ask now all of you for your final thoughts on our major question, and to make some personal prediction about the outcome of Macedonian crisis. So, Mr. Derala, can I start with you?
Yes, you may, and you can. Of course, I would love to share my colleagues and my friends and my co-citizens, fellow citizens' optimism that Macedonia is stepping towards a brighter future, towards democracy, and this is not going to be only a process that will bring some new government. What we strive for, the human rights activists, the civil society organizations that are leading this struggle, is that we are struggling for new values in this country. We are trying to introduce values of democracy, of rule of law, where everyone will be equal before the law, and for maximum respect for human rights, whether they are collective or individual human rights and freedoms. We want to see a society which is multicultural and democratic. I believe that that this will be the outcome, no matter how much we will have to endure the pressure and violence of the government.
Thank you. Maria, can I turn to you with the same question, please?
Yeah, I will be very short. I share Derala's views on Macedonia future. I really hope that it is going to be an optimistic one. And I hope that next time when we will have a debate, it won't be about the political crisis, but it will be, I don't know, for example, Macedonia joining EU or NATO.
Thank you. Mr. Serva, I just would like to hear from you, how do you predict development in Macedonia?
I can only wish well to those who want to bring stronger democratic values and rule of law to Macedonia. Prediction is not my game. What I would like to do instead is to say, look, Macedonia is going through a continuing transition that started with the breakup of former Yugoslavia. It's 25 years, but it's not 100 years. And I think we have to be careful to give Macedonia the time and space to find its own route to a democratic system. I have watched while Macedonians, both Macedonians and Albanians and others in Macedonia, have stepped back from disaster repeatedly. And I'm hopeful that they will again find a good route and step back from disaster. And by disaster, I mean very explicitly violence. It's violence that could be tragic for Macedonia. But, you know, if it takes a few more years to get on the right track, if it takes 18 months, as Mr. Derala suggests, for a transition government, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Macedonians were smart enough not to fight in 90s. So we hope very much they will stay smart and avoid any violence in the future.
That's right. That's my hope.
Yeah, let's hope for that. I would like to thank you, all of you, for taking part in this hangout. And it was a pleasure to talk to you. And I hope we will repeat this on some better note from Skopje. Okay.
Thank you
very much.